Assalamu alaikum. So on behalf of Imam Tariq El-Amin, the resident Imam of Masjid Al-Taqwa, and me as a Talim committee chair, along with committee members Dr. Lionel Allen, Dr. Gloria Bashir, and Brother Shamsuddin Sadiq, I want to welcome you to today's Talim. We will have a panel discussion on Quranic Reflections today with Brother Abdul-Khaliq, Brother Clyde El-Amin, and Sister Munirah Habeel. We are excited to hear from them today. I want to remind you, if you're a participant, that we ask you to please mute yourself if you are not speaking so that we don't have background noise. And before we begin, to note that we are recording this session and it will be available on Masjid Al-Taqwa's YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. You will find our weekly Talims and Jumas there. I am really excited as we begin this month of Ramadan very soon. First, to begin our Talim by asking Allah to continue to guide us and to direct us and bless us with the panel discussion that we have today, and with getting knowledge from each other and love from one another as we embark on the straight path. And so it is with great pleasure that I want to ask each of our panelists to kind of start by just introducing themselves. For the community online that are currently here, you probably know who they are because they are stars in our community. But for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, you may not know them. So if they can each introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves to start off our panel discussion. And Abdul-Khaliq, I'll ask if you can kick it off.
Oh, assalamu alaikum. As Dr. He said, I'm Abdul-Khaliq El-Amin, longtime member of the community. And I consider like that, thank you, you say stars in the community. I consider myself a worker in this community. I just, try to stay in my lane and get in where I fit in, where I can make a contribution best. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. And I hope that I can bring some insights and share some of the knowledge I've gained from being a participant in the halaqah that we've been having every week on Monday nights at 7 p.m. since last Ramadan. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Sister Munirah?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Sister Munirah Habeel, long-standing member of the community, and same as Brother Abdul-Khaliq, I work wherever I can. I love to stay busy in community work and community involvement. And I've worked in so many different areas of the community. So I always try to find a place where I can use whatever Allah has gifted me with to improve and make the community life better. By doing that, improve my life and show my gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll just work wherever I can. Currently, every Tuesday, I'm on AM 360 with a new program. It's all about courtship and marriage. Been working in family life since 1984. And on this program, we just try to study what we don't know and what we need to know to have successful family lives. Family life is the foundation of community life. So we can never learn enough. And I consider myself a student, and I consider myself a worker as well. Lifelong student and worker in the religion. So that's me.
Alhamdulillah. You know I'm going to be calling you back to give us some of that wisdom on family life for one of our Talims, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And last but certainly by no means least, Brother Clyde.
Assalamu alaikum. I've been in the community really since 1972, if you count your first contact, I came in back in the day when we did this thing called processing, and then you was officially in, but I realized looking back on it that you were in the community from the day you walked in. And I've done some things that were formerly in the community, mostly in education. And I've done some things that were officially out of the community, but I never really thought of myself as working outside the community. Even if I was doing something that was officially with another organization, I was always doing it from two angles with regard to the community. From one angle, it is trying to apply what it is we've been blessed to get as an understanding of how we can help our people in the community. And the other thing is trying to find things, ideas, resources, etc., that you can bring back and share with your community openly or quietly, however you do it. And so now I'm really retired, officially and formally retired from working in education, but education is a calling. It's really not a job. You really never stop doing it. You know, if you can turn it off like that, you're probably not an educator. If you can't help it, you probably are an educator. So I like to think of myself as someone who can't help it. And I like to inspire people who do it. I am really much more of a beneficiary of the Quranic discussions. I try to contribute what I can, but I really joined it because I needed something to kind of reassure me that I am tied in to the community and staying connected to the sources of our deen, because that's something that's sometimes challenging when you're working a lot in the broader community. You know, you want to keep that because that's a favor to yourself, but it's also a favor to the people that you're working with outside the community. So I'll stop there.
Absolutely. But you know, when you say education, you're right in my heartstrings. So I agree with you.
I know.
It's definitely a calling. And so as we contextualize this conversation, it's really about this Quranic discussions and reflections that happened last Ramadan and continued. So Sister Munirah, if I can ask you to start by kind of telling us what that is for the audience, what happened, how did it evolve? And then I'll ask for you to talk about how you've personally benefited. And then I'm going to pull in our dear brothers on the panel to ask them kind of the same thing. How did you benefit from this Quranic Reflections class?
Yes, alhamdulillah. So last Ramadan, of course, you know, we were in isolation. We couldn't make it out to the masjid's congregational prayer. And I was so happy to get the text regarding the Quranic Reflections that was held nightly during Ramadan. And so after reading the 30th that day, there will be a nightly, I think it was 30 minutes. Was it 30 minutes or an hour? That we would come together and discuss what we read, listen to everyone who wanted to participate, share what they learned or their insights on the reading. And it was so beneficial. One reason, it gave you an extra layer of the word escapes me, but you made sure you got your reading in so that you can be prepared for the discussion. And in doing that, it was beneficial because you learn so much more. We learn from each other, and we learn practical applications from each other as well. So when believers share their insights on the reading and maybe relay it to ongoing topics or topics of today, it furthers your education. And it was such a spiritual benefit to be with the believers and hear the believers every evening, that at the end of Ramadan, we were all of the same mind that we just can't stop this. You know, this is something that we just can't end because we saw such a huge benefit for having these discussions and just coming together, reflecting and sharing our insights. So it went from being held every evening to being held every Monday evening for 1 hour. And we broke the sections down into smaller sections. We agreed on 70 ayats per week that we would study, so we can study the Quran in a more systematic and technical way. And it's been very, very beneficial, especially when we read subject areas and we kind of need other people's insight on it and need to hear other people's understanding. And it's been very beneficial by putting the Quran and using the Holy Quran and how Allah teaches us to process the events of the day. So the practical application and the practical processes being applied to our everyday life has been really, really great. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because we oftentimes pass by churches and we see cars filled with people on a Tuesday night. And we're like, man, what are they doing on Tuesday night when they got that many people coming out, right? But this is the thing, right? This is the thing when you have a group of folks that are reading the Quran together and talking about it and applying it to their own lives, there's benefit in it. So people come and that grows. And so I think that's, you made a really good point in that. And now I reflecting on that, that's what those cars are doing, right? They see the benefit in it. Clyde, you want to talk about what benefit you've seen kind of personally in your involvement in the Quranic Reflections Weekly?
Yeah, and just let me first say ditto to everything that Sister Munirah has said. One of the things I came to really appreciate even more than I did before, because I never, as they say, I never played us cheap as a community full of people with some wisdom, because I know our leader, I know we are growing every day in our understanding of the value of what Allah blessed us with, first of all, through Prophet Muhammad, but then with the leader that we were blessed with, the Imam Warith Deen Muhammad, the understanding, the wisdom, the practical application, not just, understanding the Quran for sure, but also understanding other things that we've been exposed to that are supposed to be even the wisdom or the great knowledge of this society. But one of the things that I came away with was just a much greater appreciation and a love for the collective mind that is our community.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it sometimes blows my mind when I think about it. And we really shared each other's insights and experiences from whatever our unique exposure was in the world. I haven't studied Arabic. The last time I studied Arabic was when the Imam was teaching a class. So I try to jump in every now and then and learn a little bit. But you're having a discussion, and you ask Brother Abdul-Khaliq, well, what was the Arabic word for that? And then you get the Arabic word for it from him, and you say, okay, I see it. It has a whole nother shade or two of meaning that I would not have thought of. And if I had not been in that discussion, I wouldn't have been able to just reach out to somebody. Our community. I think one of the things that holds us back, as now speaking of us as an ethnic community, and we're still shedding some of the burdens that were put on us in this society, although we're Muslims, but we're still shedding some of that, is we really don't have that respect for our collective understanding, intellect, and wisdom from our unique perspective. We don't see Allah in it, in our journey. And that's one of the other things that got me. Everyone helped me, and I think we helped each other to see Allah's presence in our journey in this thing we call America. Even before we got what we called Al-Islam, that Allah was there. It's amazing. That's why I think I love everything on Moses. I just get excited when we start talking about Moses and Israel. It's like that was like written for us.
Yeah.
Anticipating our journey.
Absolutely. Brother Abdul-Khaliq, do you want to jump in there and give us your perspective as well?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I got it on mute, sorry. I love how we feel like I feel like we're kindred spirits. When we came in, when we started talking, Sister Munirah took the bullets right out of my gun. I had to reload, right? She started talking about how when we started reading the Quran and discussing the Quran, and we were putting things into perspective of what's going on in our life, not what was going on in the people's lives that have passed. but making the Quran relate to us today. You know, so a small thing like one of the surahs, I can't remember the number and the name of the surah, where Allah talks about a small insect, right? And how we, as strong as we are, and how great we think we are as human beings and intellects, but a small insect, if it was to snatch something away from us, we couldn't take it back. Can't get it. And the same insect, in that same surah, talks about that same insect where if he comes and bite you, right, and give you a disease that could take your life, there's nothing that you could do about it. You know, my point is that the things that were happening in the past that Allah talked about, they had no idea of what was going on. And where today we can see these things in many other places where he talks about scientific evidence, scientific facts that we know about today that were not in existence or they didn't know about during the time that it was revealed. And that there are still things that we don't know about that are still yet to be discovered in the Quran. You know, the thing that I like so much, you know, about this class is how when we start discussing things, you know, we only have an hour, but our class runs over because we'll get stuck on just one surah or one ayat or one word in the ayat. And it'll take us an hour to break down just that one word, and we get so much insight from it. One of the things that sticks out to me now is Surah An-Nur, where Allah talks about the lamp, right? And the oil and, you know, the trees and olives and the niche and the glass. But there's so much meaning in that, that we, during Ramadan, when we read the book, we hurry up and we read the 30th, and then when we're done, we're sleepy, we fall asleep and we don't retain much of it at all, right? But when we go through it this way, we get to understand some of the deeper meanings and concepts that Allah is trying to give to us. Like when it talks about the five spirits that we all have, and we think about five senses, but hey, here's something new now, 5 spirits, right, that Allah has given the human being. The senses, he's wrapped them all up into one, all 5 senses into one, right? And which is represented by the niche that the lamp sits in, right? And the glass that reflects the light is the imagination. The lamp itself being intelligence, right? The tree being the rationale, and the olive being transcendental, the transcendental application or application of that knowledge of all of them combined. You know, so we get to talk about those things and we get to grow ourselves in our knowledge during our conversations.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
That's yeah, that highlight of a particular kind of surah and the discussion that evolved and benefited you. That's exactly, you pointed me in the direction that I want to go with the next question. So if Sister Munirah, if you can expound on any surahs and highlights of discussions that really helped you and benefited you in a particular way. And I know that the 3 of you are representatives from this group, and there's some other folks that have been on the group as well. And so for this question, I love to open up the floor to those other folks as well after we hear from Sister Munirah and Brother Clyde.
Yes, alhamdulillah. So one thing I want to add on the previous question is one amazing thing about the group is that you gain such respect and admiration for the knowledge that's on the call and how much learning has taken place through our time in the community from all the years listening to the Imam, studying the Holy Quran. You know, I feel like I'm on the call every week with scholars, you know, and the benefit of community life just comes forward so greatly in that way. So we can never take each other for granted as believers in the community. And it just drives home why the community life is so important. And with that comment, I'll lead in. Our very first discussion after Ramadan, after we decided to, as a collective group, to continue the weekly Quranic Reflections, was Al-Fatiha. And we say Al-Fatiha daily, multiple times a day. If we make all of our Sunnah as well as Fard prayers, it's at least 19 times where we're reciting Al-Fatiha. And many times more than that. If you just want to make a dua, you just feel that you need to say Al-Fatiha. But when we studied Al-Fatiha, a document was sent out by Imam Benjamin Bilal, Al-Fatiha, the victorious opening. Okay, and if anyone on the call wants this document, you can email me. Most of you have my email, but you can email me at or text me and I can get the document to you. Okay, and some of the key points that he made in the document and that we studied on the call, that Al-Fatiha is a victorious opening. And our first opening on a material level was our birth, our physical birth, where we physically came out of a womb into a brand new world, into a brand new circumstances, into a brand new environment. So that was an opening, and we had to learn a whole new reality as human beings after being born, and we continue to grow and develop. So comparing that to how we grow and develop in just reciting Al-Fatiha, some of the key points that we discussed was that Al-Fatiha is not an individual prayer. It is a prayer that addresses community concerns. It's for the community. The precepts in the Al-Fatiha, it never uses the term I or me. No, it's us and we. You know, guide us on the straight way. Guide us on the straight way. So Al-Fatiha addresses the community life, the community concerns, the concerns of the group. And I always love for us to say Al-Fatiha out loud after making salat in the masjid, because especially when we're all in sync and we're all saying it in time and it just flows so well, it's just so empowering. And I understood why after studying in this way, that we're making this prayer for the group and the community life and the community concerns. So now whenever I say Al-Fatiha, I'm realizing that I'm praying and making dua, not just for myself, but for all the believers, for everyone that I know, that I have ever known, that this is a dua, that this is a part of the salat that is addressing all of us. And I love to say it even more now, and I get it's a much richer and deeper meaning when I recite Al-Fatiha now, when I look at it in this way. So that expanded my knowledge just of Al-Fatiha and the purpose of it. And it is just one example of how being on the call enriched me and my understanding of my religion, you know. And it says, ye do we worship, ye do we worship. So when we say that, you know, it's almost as if we're praying for every believer to increase in taqwa, ye do we worship, and thine aid do we seek. And we do this collectively. We do this collectively. So when we say Al-Fatiha, we're saying it for all of us. We're making dua for all of us. We're asking Allah and praising Allah for every believer, because it's not an individual prayer. So that's for our whole family, for our whole community. So Al-Fatiha, we see why it is a victorious opening. And it delivers us from selfishness and being concerned about ourselves. You're being concerned about everyone. So I'll stop because I can keep going.
I think that is absolutely beautiful. No, that is absolutely beautiful. If you like to send it to me, I can also include it in our newsletter, a link to it in our newsletter, so that all the believers can have it. I think it's something that anyone and everyone can benefit from.
I sure will. That's what we'll do, believers. I'll send it to Sister Aisha and she'll get it out to everyone, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for that. Clyde, did you want to tell us a little bit about the highlights and surahs that help you?
Well, for me, it's more, I think if I give you a conceptual piece first, and then I'll just give you an example of it. One of the things I've been growing in this for a while, but I think I grew in it more because of the group. And that is growing into an understanding of the Quran as really as a book of science, you know, and people outside of our understanding and people outside of our quote unquote religion I don't believe think of the Quran as a book of science. It's the foundation of science. And I realize we're not just talking about the hard sciences. Everything that we call science, or that's actually promoted as science in this society, the Quran addresses it. Something was brought to mind when Brother Abdul-Khaliq was talking about the light and the five, not the five senses as we call them, but basically, I can't remember the term you used, but I think it was five. And then we have five senses. Yeah. And we've been those who want power over us have so materialized that idea of the study of the science of humanity, which includes both the physical, the spiritual, the mental or emotional and intellectual, all of that. And it took me back to remembering when I first started studying psychology, I had forgotten that the first definition that was given to us was that psychology was basically two terms, psyche and ology. Ology meaning the study of, and psyche meaning the mind. But actually the original meaning of that, the Greek, is the study of the soul. Psyche is not translated as mind, it's really soul. So they have pushed the soul part out of it over time, because the materialists, they gain control by having you push the spiritual part out of any science, and you become a victim to them. And whereas they really are the ones being referred to as the ignorant. The ignorant are not just the people who are unlettered. They're not just the people who you might see standing on the corner begging. The ignorant are those who may have power, but they're ignorant. If you're ignorant of this, you are ignorant. So the ayats that really, how do you really pick a part of the Quran that's your favorite? Because the favorite changed every time we had a discussion for me. You know, each week I had a new favorite. So, but the idea that the Quran is the foundation of everything, and we will still be discovering things in this Quran. I mean, we now humanity, we will be discovering things forever. You know, as we find out more about the universe, as we go out to Mars, and as we have gone out to the moon, even in our so-called modern time, we are finding that the Quran has already addressed that. But people don't think about that in the so-called social sciences as much as they do in the so-called hard sciences, which is a crazy division in itself. But you know, the Quran really lays it all out. But what's one example for me is this is Surah 25 Al-Furqan, ayats 61 2:63, it says, blessed is he who made constellations in the skies and placed therein a lamp and a moon giving light. And it is he who made the night and the day to follow each other for such as desire to be mindful or to show their gratitude. And the servants of Allah most gracious are those who walk on the earth in humility. And when the ignorant address them, they say peace. And this is a good example of the ignorant that will probably address you arguing with that won't necessarily be people who we think of as maybe not powerful or maybe not even the most educated. They're not going to argue with you about that. But it's the people who think of themselves as being superior in education, superior in intellect, and powerful who will argue with you about this. They argue with you about the role of Allah in this. They will call it, they will argue with you with what they call empiricism, being data, etc. All those things are tools, but they are not greater tools than the right understanding from the beginning as you approach them.
Oh, absolutely. Great points. I also want to highlight one of the things that benefited me from, attending the classes. And, my schedule got messed up, so I couldn't attend as much as I wanted to. But I know when there was one time I called in, and it was after a very frustrating day at work. And what I received back was what we've endured and what we can do, and just a sense of, and when you talk about community and cross-generational, and you know what, this is what happened in our history. This is what we had to do. And, so I got a history lesson, and I got love from our community. And so some of those things are not as tangible, right? When we talk through what we benefited, but that really did benefit me to have someone to bounce those things off of. And it was related to a verse in the Quran, because I think, like you said, Brother Clyde, when we're reading it, we get something different every time because we're going through something different in our lives, right? Yeah. And the Quran gives us what we need. And so it was giving me what I needed, and to help digest that food, this group was able to add our history, right? Our rich and beautiful history to that context, which really made it, for me, very nourishing. So alhamdulillah for that. Alhamdulillah. So I want to give so I have a question in the chat as well, but I'm gonna ask first if there's anyone else that's been part of the group that wanted to talk about something, a verse or a highlight that benefited them. I wanted to make sure I give you that opportunity. Please feel free to put your name in the chat. You can use the reactions button at the bottom right if you are by Zoom as well, and raise your hand so that I know that you would like to speak. So I have another question for you all as I continue to look at the chat. So of course we know Ramadan is right here, and we're right back to where we started. And as you said initially, Sister Munirah, this was initially started in Ramadan every day. And I was on the last call where I know I was shedding tears, right? We understood that this couldn't stop during Ramadan because the benefit was way too big to just end. And so as you think about this Ramadan coming up, do you have some personal or collective goals or thoughts, things that you're thinking about for how you're going to tackle the studying and kind of this upcoming Ramadan in general?
Was that question for all of us or just for me?
Yes, it's for all of you. And if Abdul-Khaliq, well, Sister Munirah, if you want to start.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I would like to, instead of just sitting down reading the 30th, I would like to break it up throughout the day and just read ayats in the morning, in the middle of the day, and in the evening, so that I can read slower and try to digest more. And I want to do my best to stay on top of the reading and make it a priority, making my salat and on time and reading the Holy Quran. But I want to digest as much of it as possible. And I think that from studying it, the Holy Quran all year, that, I've grown since last year. and inshallah, my insights will be different. So I just really want to take my time and digest as much as possible.
Really great. Brother Abdul-Khaliq, and Sister Aisha, I see your hand up, and inshallah, I'm going to get to you just in one moment.
Yes, I would like to see, you know, now that Ramadan is upon us, that we're doing Taraweeh prayer on Fridays and Saturdays, right? And when you retired, semi-retired, or changing jobs, professions as you age and get older, the reward that you get for getting older, I would like to see us expand that. Those that can, during Taraweeh prayer, that we can discuss, you know, at the end of the prayer for 30 minutes or so, what we got from the day's reading. Because, you know, it was mentioned earlier, we're rushing through, we're trying to get it all done and get about our daily lives and that, so we really don't retain a lot of it, and we don't get the chance to get the insights that we would like to get during the daily readings. So if we could expand that and talk a little bit more about that during the evening, like I say, for those that can, after Taraweeh prayer, I would like to see that happen and participate in something like that. And can I quickly say is that, you know, for me, it's really been an honor to be in the class. Since starting out as a little kid, I was always fixing things. I was always working with my hands, you know. I never took the time out to read in advance and get out into all of that study and whatnot. I hated English when I was coming up, didn't want anything to do with that. And now that I've got the time to do it, the last, say, 15 years or so, those of us who have small children, like 5 years old, 4 years old, 10 years old, if you can get them in an Arabic class, to get them to learn this language as children, because there's a reason Allah chose to reveal this Quran, his final revelation to us, his blueprint for us, you know, his manual for humanity's success, for us to get to Jannah in the Arabic language, because it's so rich and expressive, and you know, it's just really, I get chills when I think about it and talk about it, because it's such a blessing, you know, to learn this and get rid of the plantation interpretation, right? Where we as a people can go into this Quran as a new people, as Imam Muhammad said, has never been on earth before, and go into his revealed book and get for ourselves in our own situation how to live our lives and be successful in the days and the times that we live in.
MashaAllah, thank you for that reminder. Brother Clyde, you want to finish off this question? Then I'm going to call on Sister Aisha, who has her hand raised.
Sure. Well, first of all, I anticipate that it's going to be a richer experience for me reading the Quran this Ramadan, because I have continued throughout the year, you know, at least weekly, you know, it's not just reading it, but actually having some discussion about it, which makes you internalize things a little bit more and makes them stick with you. And one of the things I do notice in the class, I'm really remembering more of what we discussed a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever, because I was doing it every week. So I think whatever activity or whatever approach works for someone being able to read it, I would say pick the time of day where you will probably be the least rushed to do it. And sometimes it's just a matter of, and I know people who are working jobs, they don't get to plan their day as easily or as much as someone like me, who I may be working on a project sometimes, but I still have a lot more control over my time than people who actually have to go and give 8 hours, or give 8 hours from your computer at home nowadays with COVID. But I think we have to think about, each one of us has to think about how our day is structured, and what's the best fit for us, rather than just start reading when Ramadan is declared as having started. You just start reading. Try to think about how is your day organized, and what are the, whatever, if it's 30 minutes that you're likely to have the least interruptions, and try to get it done. You may mean changing your sleep patterns a little bit, not necessarily getting less sleep, but changing when you sleep or how you sleep. Maybe using naps more than you normally use naps. We forget that a whole lot of people in the world, they take a nap every day. We don't understand that what we're doing is actually less natural than what they're doing. But maybe we can figure out a way to reorganize ourselves around in some way or another that we can be more concentrated when we do read.
I think that's really sage advice. And I am on the bandwagon for naps. I am sign me up anytime. Sister Aisha, can you unmute yourself and go ahead and add to the discussion?
Assalamu alaikum, dear believers. Sister Aisha, when the reflection that was happening during the month of Ramadan, last Ramadan, I really wasn't a part of that. So as we moved into the end part of it, we became a part of it, we started listening. But what was so powerful and insightful for me was that everyone on this call on Monday had such a wealth of knowledge. And the level and the knowledge was very respectful to one another. I was like, this is just a great group of people. And a couple of times we read, and I was like, Abdul, why we wasn't doing this sooner? Why we wasn't doing this earlier? We need to read the Quran every day. He said, sis, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So that was so great for me. And for us to be able to do it again this year, it's probably going to be more powerful because we read the Quran, I don't know, as long as we've been Muslims every single year, but I promise you every year, I'd be like, I didn't remember that from last year. But Aisha, you said our life's different. So every time something happens is different, we get something else out the Quran. And that was truly a blessing for me as we go through so much during the course of our lives to be able to come back and one day and just sit down and just reflect to what God has told us and what we should do. And it was just, if you missed it, then that's fine, because Allah had who we needed to have on there. And it was just great every single Monday. And I'm so looking forward to us continuing that, to be reading the Quran, not just during Ramadan or if something happens, but every week have something to be able to guide your life. Friday, Jummah Mubarak, that's wonderful. But then for Monday to come back, it makes it so much better for us. And I thank Sister Munirah for her hosting. We got down to one day with Brother Clyde, Abdul-Khaliq, and Brother Ronald on the phone. I was like, then they had such a beautiful conversation, just the brothers together. So I just wanted to add that and just say thank everyone who was a part of that. And inshallah, we can continue that process again this Ramadan as well.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for that. And thank you for giving the gratitude where it's due. Sister Munirah put together a schedule where each person could lead. She's kind of just been just how she does, beautifully organized and leading and working. I think it describes her. So as we have just a few minutes left of the call, I want to ask, what can people who have missed the discussions, what can they expect? And is it okay to join now when they get that text message about the Quranic Studies class?
Yes, it's open to everyone. And if you would like to go into the rotation to be a facilitator, you can just text me and I can add you in. We'll have a schedule with the 30th listed, what the reading will be for each day. And we have a current rotation schedule. I'll have to contact everyone to make sure they want to stay on that rotation. But if you would like to be on the rotation, please feel free to join. Alhamdulillah, the more the merrier, the more the better.
Absolutely. And I see Imam Sariq, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say how much I absolutely miss being able to be a part of those conversations, and how I am absolutely looking forward to the end of this semester. It's only the most diabolical that would schedule a class at 7 o'clock when we're supposed to be on having our discussions. So, but I tremendously appreciate Sister Munirah's stewardship and taking that on to make sure that, we continue to have voices and different perspectives, at the helm. But just the whole dynamic of that space. For those who missed it, you didn't get a chance to participate before. Well, you got a chance now, and it's coming back up. And I am definitely looking forward to getting back in and benefiting from the different perspectives. It's a beautiful space. And I really feel like it's an example of the Al-Fatiha community, because it really is about, it's about the collective. It's not about an individual, but everybody benefits. So, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. If there are no other questions, okay, so there's another question. Must all participants facilitate? There's some folks that may feel like they want to be part of the conversation, but a little bit more on the shy side for facilitating. So how do you negotiate that?
No, you can only facilitate if you like to. And when we don't have a facilitator, some evenings we don't have a facilitator, and it's just open discussion. So it can flow freely as well. But having the facilitator works to help guide the conversation and bring out points that they thought were that we could discuss and get into some discussion more, or to share particular insights on points. So no, you don't have to be a facilitator. You can join and listen. And if you choose to participate in the conversation, you're free to.
That was a great question. Thank you for that clarification, Sister Munirah. I want to quickly go over some of the things that you can expect this Ramadan at Masjid Al-Taqwa with high accolades, and thank you to our Sister Jamila and Dr. Gloria for help pulling together these activities. We have a daily Dikra and Dua circle from 10:30 to 12, from 12:30 to 12:50. It's the sisters only. That information is in your newsletter. Then we have the Monday night Quranic Reflections, which I'm so honored our panel came in and gave us an overview of what that is, right? Sometimes we see a text about something, we're like, what is that? So now you are clear on what it is, and inshallah, you can be, it could be a benefit to you as well. And of course, that's for both brothers and sisters. We have our Men of Taqwa Saturday night halakas for 30 minutes before Fajr. And we also have the Children's Reading Circle on Zoom on Sundays, ages 7 to 11, from 3 to 3:30. And then Taqwa Teens from 3 to 3:30 to 4 o'clock. We also have our, and I think Brother Abdul-Khaliq mentioned this, our Friday and Saturday Tawheed prayer at 7:30. And inshallah, we will also be getting notification from Sister Gina. I'm not sure if she's on the call right now, I can expound, but she will be doing either Monday nights or Thursday nights in the lot doing dance classes so that we can have a Eid celebration that we can perform a dance at. So I also have a message. Halakha is 30 minutes before sunrise for MOT, and Tawheed prayer is at 9:30. So excuse me for those errors, and thank you for that correction.
Quranic, during the month of Ramadan, it will be nightly.
Nightly, thank you so much. And what time each night? 6 p.m.
Central.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for that, Sister Munirah. So you heard it here. You heard it here first. Get ready, get geared up. The Quran is our guide, and inshallah, these believers will be blessed for sharing their wisdom with us and facilitating discussions where we can be the best iterations of ourselves as Muslims on this Sirat al-Mustaqim. So I want to end with a quick dua, or actually, if I can ask Sister Munirah to end us with a dua, and maybe that Al-Fatiha, which I'm now thinking of in a very different way. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, ma'am. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Thank you so much.
I mean,
Ameen.
Alaikum, dear believers.